Hello.
Hello.
I'll just wait a few seconds in case Ruben and Graham are on their way. Okay, I'll get started. So welcome everyone. This will be our final APAC EMEA timed delivery weekly for this year. There's quite a few announcements in here. Some of them you three will have already seen, but just a couple I've added in on 1C and D, I think are the two new ones. So on the discussion point, I wanted to just give a little update on hiring. So we are still looking for a new SRE to join us. We ideally will find someone who's an intermediate level and based in the Americas time zone. So if you do know anyone at all, or if you know of anyone who maybe is like a possible future hire, please do refer them so we can consider them. Also, we're actually hiring a lot of people across platforms. So Scalability have a lot of back-end engineer positions plus SRE positions open. And Marion is also hiring, I believe, SRE and back-end as well. So if you know of anyone who you think would be a good fit at delivery, in GitLab, please go ahead and refer them. And then to help us across interviewing for this role, but also kind of in future roles, I'm looking to have everyone trained up to interview. So I think all of you, except for Ahmad, are currently trained already. Ahmad, like I haven't opened up your issue just yet. We'll wait until you've gone through your release management training. Following that, we'll do this. So you're not learning absolutely everything all in one go. But it does mean that for those of you who are interviewing, you will have some shadows. So Skarbek is in training, Myra is about to start her training, and Graham is also about to start training as well. So over the next few months, as we do run interviews, we'll probably try and always have a shadow so we can actually get everyone comfortable with this. And then actually, before I go on, are there any questions around this current role and hiring or anything I've said so far?
I have a question about an announcement.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
So the currency conversion rates, I never understood those. So I have a specific question. So maybe this is not the right place, but maybe someone knows. So those currency conversion are only for the salary, or also for, let's say, the holiday budget. So today, holiday budget is in dollars. So when I was contractor, I used to refer to that thing to expense them in euro. I do remember having some argue last year, I think, when I was expensing something and they were just complaining about the conversion rate. And I say, this is what it's in the handbook. They say, no, you should look at the daily conversion rate. But at that point in time, the conversion rate was frozen for a long time. So is this something that we should use when we expense, let's say, today holiday budget, or we do with the daily conversion rate for USD to euro?
So as far as I understand it, this announcement was specifically around salaries. And it was specifically around, so some people get paid in USD, and then there's a conversion to switch it into their local currency. So this announcement was specifically about that. In terms of expenses, I'm actually not sure. Like, as far as I am aware, most of that is handled automatically. Certainly when I've had different currencies, I've just thrown them in and they've kind of figured themselves out. But I would say if there was something in the handbook, use that. Like I think in your case, Alessio, like in the end, the handbook was honored, right? So I would say always, if there is a policy, a process in there with an amount, then use that one. And if ever, if anyone's challenges you on that one, we can refer back to the handbook and people can update that. So follow whatever is in the handbook. Awesome. And Ruben, I saw your comment. Hang on. So Ruben, let's get you starting your training in that case, because there's a little bit of like pre-work that you can do and like training courses that can take a little bit of time. But then the bit that really takes the longest is shadowing, because it relies on us kind of having the right interviews scheduled in at a time that works for you. And some people choose to go through, it's like recommended you shadow 2 interviews. Some people like to do a few more than that so that they can actually see different interview styles and get comfortable. So there's no harm in starting to getting to the shadowing point as soon as you can, so that you can maximize that time. For those of you, I hope you all know, but for those of you who don't know, Alessio is going off on parental leave next year in February. And if we are interviewing during that time, which we may be, then we are down 1 person. So that's why I'm also quite keen that we have everyone comfortable and ready to be able to lead interviews from February if we need to. So I'll open you an issue for that, Ruben, and assign it to you so you can go through the first few steps.
I actually already have the issue open. It's been open for a little while.
Okay, cool, good. Cool.
You
okay.
never beat me. Mine is still open after more than 2 years, even though I did 2 years of shadowing.
Yeah. So we do now sometimes get checked on whether we have completed our training. So it's good to get it completed, get it to the point where you can just close it out, not worry about that, and get into actual interviewing. Awesome. And then the other thing around hiring I wanted to just mention is that we are following this new SRE hire. We're pretty much at maximum team size. That will take us to 9. And I think there's a couple of sort of significant problems that come about at 9. One of them is just the sort of breadth of the domain that we're working across. A number of different projects we have in progress, and a number of different, it's already getting a little bit painful when we ping like delivery on an issue. You perhaps don't necessarily need input from the entire team. You're probably asking for a smaller subset of people at that stage. So we'll start to figure out how we can split around that. It also is quite hard work to manage 9 people. So we'll be looking to split the team, hopefully hire another manager, and actually see if we can actually focus. Most likely, we haven't figured out the details, but most likely we'll split down the .com and self-managed domain. But we haven't quite figured out. It depends. If we get headcount, we can figure out details on how to go ahead and split. But just so you know that is likely to happen next year. Are there any questions? Nope. Awesome. Okay. So Ruben, you have next point.
I just wanted to ask about this issue. Is the proposal for moving generation of the QA issue to its own job, but in deployer itself? I think that is the case, but I just wanted to confirm.
Maybe. I think for this one, it probably is whatever's easiest. Like ideally, it would be in release tools, but it's not the end of the world if it is in deployer, because it still moves us closer to where we want to get to. So I think if there is
I actually got a little confused while trying to understand all this, because the actual issue generation, I think, happens in release tools, but it gets triggered from deployer, and then deployer reads it again, the result as an artifact. And so I got a little confused. Okay. So I think anyway, the actual generation will live in release tools, but deployer will still need to trigger it.
Why will deployer need to trigger it?
Because from what I understood, even now that Myra has moved the QA jobs to release tools, the original QA jobs in deployer still exist, because if you start a deployment via chatops commands, it triggers it in deployer.
Yeah, as well as the pre-environments and all the environments that we don't do auto deploy on. So I think I was reading the issue right now. So I think that what Myra is complaining about here is that QA issue is generated by the GSTG track job, which is, as you said, in release tools, but triggered from the deployer. Now, probably the triggers can be removed or already has been removed. I don't know right now, but the thing is that then the problem is the how we move the QA thing. So I think this is what she's talking about. Maybe she wants to get the QA generation out of it and then figure out if we can move the artifacts that gives the URL, or if there is a better way to get that URL, not relying on artifacts.
Just to give some background, I'm asking because I was working on another task to. I put the link in the doc to make the tracking jobs non-blocking for rollback pipelines, but conditionally making it non-blocking is just introduces a lot of tech debt in deployer. So now I'm looking at moving the QA issue generation out of the tracking job so that we can make the tracking job unconditionally, allow failure.
So I think to move further with that one, then Ruben, it's probably what's the minimum you need to have done in order to be able to do that. So having those as blocking jobs is the concerning bit, because it gives us a point of failure. So if there's something which we can do that helps us get to that, then that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I was thinking of simply separating it out into its own job so that that can stay as it is while we just make the tracking job non-blocking. Now I'm not entirely sure if that satisfies the proposal in 2140. So that's what I was trying to check.
Ruben, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say, I guess it doesn't really matter. If it doesn't satisfy 2140, we leave that open. If it does, we can close it.
I want to say something here, which is the tracking job right now is kind of a collection of, it does so many things. I don't agree that it should be allowed to fail, because there are some of those jobs that don't rely on GitLab.com that should be there, which are, for instance, tracking on the release metadata project. Because that one is an ops and is the thing that we use to get the list of deployments. So if we are going down this route, I suggest that we either split the job in two so that we have one set of tracking information that goes to GitLab.com, so that are useful for engineers that can fail, and another one that is targeting ops with the things that we rely on that can't fail. So if it fails, it stops, reruns. I mean, we have to figure out what's the better use case for this, but there are two different type of tracking happening there. So probably it's worth splitting.
So then it might be better to split out the, deployment creation on GitLab.com and keep everything else in the tracking job.
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss this. So I think we just need to list what this thing is doing and say what can fail and what can't fail. And when we have all the interaction that this tracking job is doing, we can say it makes sense to split here, or it makes sense to move those things elsewhere. And then we made a decision.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll put a list in the issue and then we can decide.
Perfect. Sounds good. Good. Does anyone have anything else they want to discuss? Nope. Okay, super.